Welcome, everybody, to the latest edition of the Rink Rap Podcast. I am Jim Cerny. We are presented by Forever Blueshirts. A pleasure to be with you again this week as we get set for Thanksgiving. Should be a happy time, right? Thankful for family, thankful for friends, thankful for good health, thankful for so many things, even if you're a sporting fan, right? So much to be thankful for. Ranger fans, though, probably too wrapped up in their angst to talk about being thankful at this time of year right now with their favorite team. And we're going to dive into that. We've got a 3-game losing streak. We've got trade rumors. The general manager supposedly reaching out to all 31 teams saying, hey, doors are open. Business is underway. We got to fix things here. And we're just 2 months into the season. A season in which the New York Rangers and their fans expected this team to contend for the Stanley Cup again. And here's some breaking news. They still can do that because we're only 2 months into the season. So I've got a little bit of a positive message for you. Maybe get you to climb off the edge of the bridge, or if you're sitting on the windowsill ready to jump, I'm here for you. I'm going to talk you down a little bit because there's also a lot to be negative about. I get it. And we're going to dive into that on the podcast today. It's just going to be you and me, okay? So I know you've been sending in your questions and commentary to me on Twitter at Jim Cerny, and I appreciate that. So we'll work those into the podcast today. And otherwise, it's just going to be us. You know, I decided there's so much going on. I've got so much to say. There's so little time. No guests this week. We'll go back next week, and we'll bring in a guest. So you don't have to listen to me the whole time. This week, you're going to listen to me, and you're going to listen to me also work you into the podcast as well. So, okay, happy Thanksgiving. Again, start with the positive, right? Happy Thanksgiving. I'm glad we're together, glad we're sharing this time. Now let's get into it. I mentioned the 3-game losing streak. Can't be happy about it, right? You know, but hey, you know, if you want to be glass half full, it's their longest skid of the season. It's the only time that the Rangers have lost consecutive games all season. They're 20 games into the season. It's the first time that they've strung together more than one loss, right? They've lost 3 in a row. Hasn't been pretty. To me, it's more about the bigger picture. And this is something I didn't like from Peter Laviolette after the latest loss, the 5-2 loss at home against the St. Louis Blues on Monday. I didn't dig that the coach is just focusing on the 3-game skid. He said a couple things, a couple different quotes where he said, well, in these 3 games, and it's all about these past 3 games and getting out of this rut. And those are my words. He didn't use the word rut, but he was focusing on these 3 games. And to me, it's so much bigger than that, right? After the 5-0-1 start, Rangers are 7-7. So 7-7-0, no regulation losses regulation or overtime losses. They're 7-7-0. That's 500 hockey. And that's 14 games. That is a much bigger portion of your schedule to this point than 5-0-1 to begin the season. So that's concerning. And I know the coach, he just, right now he wants to narrow it down. He probably wants to, kind of cool the waters around the team and everything, turn down the heat, if you will. But it's more than this 3-game skid. The loss in Calgary, the ugly loss in Edmonton, and then coming home and losing to a St. Louis Blues team that, come on, you cannot lose to the St. Louis Blues. The sub-500 St. Louis Blues, where you're trying to snap a 2-game skid and feel good about yourselves again, and you're back at Madison Square Garden, right? That's a game you can't lose. I get it. St. Louis, they just had the coaching change. Jim Montgomery's first game behind the bench. So clearly the team's going to be, probably a little bit more juiced up, try and show the new guy behind the bench that, hey, the fresh start, it got fresh set of eyes on me. I want to make a good first impression. All good. And St. Louis Blues, I thought, played really well last night. They were skating well. They were fast. They were on the puck. They drove the game offensively. But here's my issue with it. And this goes back to the bigger picture, the past 14 games, is that everybody's doing this to the Rangers, right? Pretty much everybody. Maybe not everybody, but pretty much everybody. St. Louis Blues, Buffalo Sabres, Edmonton Oilers, Washington Capitals, even games that the Rangers have won, not just games that they've lost. It hasn't been so great. It hasn't been so great for this Ranger team for more than a month now. 14 of their 20 games we're talking about. And you can even argue in the 5-0-1 stretch, you probably could toss in, Igor stealing one for them here and there. But this 7-7-0 stretch, look at the job that Igor Shesterkin and Jonathan Quick have done, stealing wins. Games where they're kept in because of their goaltending, and then the Rangers do what they do a lot of the times, right? Score on the power play, get a power play goal, even though you're kind of be run out of the building, but score a big power play goal, get a bunch of big saves, by Quick or Shesterkin, or the quick strike goals. Boy, the Rangers are good at that. And that points to their talent level. I get it. That's a good thing, right? To be able to do that. Quick strike goals, boom, boom. All of a sudden you're down 2-1 and now you're up 3-2. That's what the Rangers can do to you. But they rely on these things, right? It's one thing to be able to do it, but it's another to rely on it. And it really looks like the Rangers rely on those three components. Our goaltending's better than yours. Our power play's better than yours. And we've got so much talent here. We can quick strike you when we need to. Well, that's all well and good until it doesn't work out that way. Goalies have an off night. Igor's had a bunch of games now where he's allowed 5 or more goals. Jonathan Quick got lit up the other night in Edmonton. Happens. Even they're 2 of your best players, maybe your 2 best players in the first quarter of the season. It happens. So you got that. The power play's gone dry. They haven't scored a power play goal in 6 games. Only 10 opportunities, which speaks to the fact that that's a whole other issue, because that means the Rangers aren't drawing penalties either. And to me, that's about will and compete and being on the puck and driving the play. And the Rangers aren't doing it enough. So they're not drawing enough penalties. But when they do, they're not scoring on the power play. 0 for 3 on Monday night. Now 0 for their last 10. 0 for their last 6 games. So, okay, goaltending, they haven't bailed them out as much as they did earlier. Now the power play's dried up. And now where are the quick strike goals? Not happening. Not happening. It's like everybody's kind of quieted down. They've gotten some dirty goals. I mean, thank goodness for Will Cooley and Alexis Lafreniere. Those 2 have really stepped up. Talk about, things to be thankful for. Those guys are high on the list along with the goalies. What a year for Will Cooley. I mean, we'll get into that. But 7-7-0 their last 14 games. And you can argue that they're probably fortunate to have that 500 record in the past month plus, because they did steal games. Their goalies stole them games. Their power play won them games. Couple quick strikes win them some games. They easily, if you argue that their goaltending in this 14-game stretch stole them 2 wins, right? Arguably. Stole them 2 wins. We're probably being conservative. All right. So now we're talking about 5-9-0 stretch, and we're talking about a team that would be 10-9-1 at the quarter, as opposed to 12-7-1 as they are now. Semantics, 4 less points, but 10-9-1 is basically 500. I know in the NHL it's a little bit above 500, but it's basically a 500 team. And that's kind of what the Rangers look like, right? That's what they kind of look like. So Peter Laviolette, just focusing on the 3-game losing streak last night, didn't quite sit well with me because the issues go beyond that. So here we are. So what do you do? Right? What do you do? So word breaks out yesterday. Elliot Friedman, the first to report it, that Chris Jury sent a memo, quote unquote, a memo, assuming an email, to the 31 GMs in the league saying the New York Rangers are open for business. We're looking to make a trade. Obviously, the undercurrent of that is we've identified that we're not happy with our team right now. We're not happy with the way we're going. The roster, the lineup, it's stale, and it looks stale. Right now I'm going off on a tangent. It looks stale. More than anything, that's what stands out to me about the Rangers. They look stale. They play stale. And I like the shakeup of the lines last night. I like bringing Brett Berard up. Do I think Brett Berard is a real long-term answer in the New York Rangers top six? I do not. He might be a good middle six guy. Probably, to me, he's a third-line player, good third-line player in the NHL at some point. But I don't think he's a real top six player. But he plays in the top six last night, gives the Rangers some juice. And, right off the bat, we get a question from the Marv Zone, a question, little commentary. He asked me about my thoughts on Berard in his NHL debut. And since I'm going off on a tangent here, and trust me, we'll circle back to the trade rumors. What did I think about Berard last night? Really liked him. A lot of jump, adds speed, adds passion, adds a little grit. I know he's a little water bug out there. He's 5'9". Like I wrote in my story about him today. He was the smallest guy on the ice last night, but you sure as heck noticed him. So good on Brett Berard. Listen, there were mistakes there. He and his line mates with Mika and Will Cooley, they got caught a couple times. The first two goals scored by St. Louis, they were on for. But, great effort by Berard on Cooley's second goal that tied the game at 2-2. The wraparound, good aggressive play behind the net, good scoring opportunity. Puck kicks back to Zibanejad. Zibanejad, to his credit, great look, finds a wide open Cooley, and boom, the game's tied. So, I liked what I saw out of Berard last night. You also saw, kind of a mixed feel from the coach about him. He only played him 11 minutes last night. Did play him on the second power play unit, and what a look, right? What a look by Brett Berard, that behind the back pass, finding Capo Caco alone on right wing on the second power play unit in the first period. Great scoring chance, and it's Capo Caco, so I guess it didn't end up in the back of the net, but still great scoring opportunity. And so I think a lot to like out of Brett Berard in his first game. But again, limited to 11 minutes. By Coach Peter Laviolette. But I like what Laviolette said about him after the game, that he noticed in Berard, he's trying to make a difference. So the coach tells you something there about the 22-year-old kid, but is he also telling you something about the rest of his lineup, the rest of the roster, right? Did he choose his words specifically to say Brett Berard is trying to make a difference? Is that an insinuation? Maybe about, some higher profile Rangers? I don't know. Lavi's not going to say for sure, but I don't know. Certainly could read it that way. In any case, thank you for the question at the Marv Zone. All right, let's get back into the trade rumors, right? So let's say you're a general manager, one of 31 in the league. Every team's got its own situation. Every team sits at a different point up against the salary cap. Every team is in a different position. There are Stanley Cup contenders. There are wannabes. There are teams that might be on the cusp, knocking on the door of being a playoff contender, or maybe even a cup contender. And there are teams that are out of it already. A whole wide variance. And up against, different teams with different, salary cap levels, teams that, are in different points, with their pipeline with upcoming prospects, teams that are looking to make trades, teams that, have no interest in making a trade yet. It's early. Not a lot of big trades get made in November. So here's my questioning, right? If you're one of those GMs, and supposedly, specifically, Drury mentioned Chris Kreider and Jacob Trouba. Okay. So at this point in the season, we're not even at December yet. What GMs, what teams are fired up? Say, I got to make a trade now for Jacob Trouba or Chris Kreider. Starting with Trouba. I don't think there are a lot. Okay. Maybe there's a team out there that thinks, hey, I could put Trouba on my third pair. If the Rangers eat half his salary, Yeah. Or I've got a younger team. I'm Ottawa, for example. I need that veteran presence, somebody with leadership and all that. And especially if the Rangers eat half his salary. But if you're the Rangers, what's your end game here? Sure, trading your captain would shake up the mix. No doubt. That's a big deal. Then you got to replace him. And I hear it already in my headset. I hear the Ranger fans barking. Just addition by subtraction, right? Just get this guy out of town. We're better off without him. Fine, if that's what you think. But the thing is, you got to replace him. And listen, I'm all in on Victor Mancini. I think he's going to be a part of this future. I think we're going to see him in and out of the lineup this season. But do you think Peter Laviolette wants to go to war with a third pairing of Zach Jones and Victor Mancini? No dice. There's no way. There's no way that Peter Laviolette wants that, right? So, what is your end game with trading Jacob Trouba? Are you trading him to get another defenseman? You trade him as part of a package? Do you have to sweeten it? Do you have to add a prospect or two to the mix? Because you don't have draft picks to trade unless, and I don't think the Rangers would do it at this point. I think you hold on to it until before the deadline. But the only picks they have in the coming years are first round picks. And, we know Chris Drury holds those near and dear to his heart, as well as he should. But second round, they don't have a second round pick, the next 3-4 years? They don't have a third round pick next year. Next year, they don't have a second, third, fourth, or their own fifth. They have a fifth, I think, from the Minnesota Wild, if I remember correctly. But yeah, no second round pick for 3 or 4 years, no fourth round pick for the next 3 years. And they don't have a third round pick until 26. I think 26 and 27, they each have a third rounder. But there's not a lot of trade equity there in the draft picks that the Rangers have. So, okay. What are you going to add to Jacob Trouba then? If you're trying to get a defenseman back, if you're trying to improve your defense core, shake things up and also improve your defense core. All right. Got your work cut out for you. Brennan Othmann is injured. I'm not against trading Brennan Othmann. I'd rather keep him because the Rangers pipeline is not that deep with prospects. But okay, if you told me, boy, we could get, making up a name here, Ivan Provorov, as part of the package, and Brennan Othmann's part of it, I'd be intrigued. I'd consider it. But he's hurt now. He's out till at least December. Is anybody trading for injured goods? Maybe. But certainly that's not going to spike his value. I don't think you're trading Gabe Perreault. Brett Berard, maybe. Especially if somebody sees him, play here in the NHL, says, well, he'd fit on my third line pretty nicely. I'd add that kid. All right. But really, who are you getting back then to replace Trouba? And he makes $8 million this year, $8 million next year. So it's not like the Rangers are just offloading this money, all this money. Wouldn't you think that you have to probably eat half of his salary, even now? So there's that. Then you also have his 15-team no trade clause. And he spoke to that today. He was asked about it by, the reporters after practice. And he said, listen, that's what I signed up for. So in other words, if I get traded, I'm going to go report, to one of the teams that is not on my list. That's what I agreed to in my contract. Okay. But still, you just cut your opportunities in half here. So somewhere in those 16 remaining teams, you got to find a trade partner. And you find a way to replace him. Now, there's a team like a Columbus Blue Jackets, right? They were, just scraping above the salary cap floor before the untimely passing of Johnny Gaudreau. Now they're actually under the floor. So they're a team that could take on all $8 million of Jacob Trouba, right? But what are you going to get back? What's their incentive to give the Rangers back anything of value? Just to, offload. All right, we'll take the salary off your hands, and we need to get up over the floor eventually anyway. But what are you going to do? What are you going to get back? And you're still looking for that extra defenseman. Now, if you're talking about a wider swath of trying to make a deal here, okay. So you do that. Maybe that's part one of a 2 or 3 part plan, because now you freed up money, and now maybe you can make another trade, a hockey trade, maybe Chris Kreider. I'm just making it up for a defenseman. But, after you trade Chris Kreider, you've opened up another hole, right? And Chris Kreider, oh, by the way, also has a 15-team trade, no trade clause in his contract. So it's not going to be so easy to move him either. But okay, those were the 2 names that came out. And by the way, here's a side note. I want to know where this information came out, how it came out. Like Chris Drury, it's like living in a Brinks bank. Right? Nothing gets out of there. Nothing gets out of there. Chris Drury does not leak anything. And if he is the one that leaked this, or if the Rangers are the team that leaked this, there's a reason why. They're either trying to light a fire under the team right now, or what? Are they improving their bargaining position by getting it out? I don't think so. I think the only thing is to light a fire if they're the ones that let it out. Now, there are 31 other teams involved, so maybe just another GM says, chats with Elliot Friedman and says, hey, did you hear about this memo that Chris Drury sent around? I mean, that's possible too. And to be honest, with how the Rangers are run, the gulag that they're in, Chris Drury is, locked away and not talking to the media, not leaking anything out. My hunch would be that's more likely that scenario than the Rangers leaking any information. But okay. So back to Kreider, so 6 and change. The rest of this season, next season, and the following season. He'll be 36 when the contract ends. So out of 16 teams that you could trade him to, how many teams want him? I'd say more than want Jacob Trouba, but I don't think that there's an easy path to trading Chris Kreider. So let's open it up past them. Who else? Who else has value to trade here? First of all, and I'm going to the questions here. There are so many fans that have brought up the name Mika Zibanejad. Get him to waive his, no move clause, says at Conwick. Blue collar Blueshirts are running Mika down as well. Oh, another, -3 last night for Mika. I got another one here. Please tell me they can move Mika. He's got a no move clause. He makes $8+ million a year. Long-term contract. He's going to be here for a while. And I'm with you. He is a problem right now. He really is. I know Don LeGreca and I talked about this a couple weeks ago on the podcast. And Donnie was talking about how the confidence just comes and goes with Mika. Does he look like a confident player out there? Does he look like a difference maker? Laviolette talking about Brett Berard trying to make a difference. Does Mika look like a difference maker? He doesn't to me. He does not. Doesn't mean he can't explode and take off. There's a lot of hockey to be played. But boy, has he been a problem. And man, he just gets beat off the rush left and right. Yeah, you just wonder, is there some sort of scarring that went on from the Eastern Conference Final last year? How the playoffs developed for him, and how he was a non-factor against the Panthers. I typically don't believe in carryover. That was in June. We're in November now. It's a different season. I don't believe in that carryover, but in this case, maybe. He has not been good. He's had some great moments. I mean, he's a phenomenally talented player. He's going to have moments, but there is no consistency to his game, positive consistency. And sometimes you just wonder about his compete level. And I think he's got compete to him. But I think the confidence just sometimes gives this kind of Mika that's out there, So anyway, no move clause for Mika, no move clause Vincent Trocheck, who, by the way, has taken a step back this season as well. Though to me, he's a heart and soul guy. I think if and when this team turns around, and I think they're going to turn it around, Vincent Trocheck's going to be a big part of that. He's going to be a big part of it as a leader and as a player on the ice, production-wise and all that. Anyway, he's got a no-move clause. And Artemi Panarin's got a no-move clause. And I don't think you want to move Panarin anyway, right? He's your most explosive offensive player. He's got a point in every game but 3 or 4. I know he has slowed down recently from the torrid start, but yeah, he's still on pace for a great season. And you know that he's going to hit these stretches where he's just unstoppable, over the course of the season. Again, we're just 20 games in, quarter of the way into the season. Anyway, I know a lot of people asking about those players in various different trades here, and I'm not going to name you all, but they're not getting moved. It's not happening. Mika's not getting traded. Trocheck is here. Panarin's not going anywhere. The goalies aren't being traded, nor should they. In fact, Rangers still trying to figure out, how they're going to pay. Well, they're going to pay Igor next season, 12 plus million, whatever. I still believe that's going to get done at some point. Anyway, that's another side note. But so who's available to be traded that has some value? There's Ryan Lindgren, who, if you trade him now, you're not trading him at his peak level. But somebody's going to see value in him. Tough defenseman, has played a lot of big games in his career already, still only 26. He's an unrestricted free agent at the end of the year. So you're getting a guy that you would hope as he gets healthier and finds his game coming back from the jaw injury that, he'll turn it on. He'll get it going. But again, if you trade him, he only makes $4.5 million. And like I said, he's a rental. So I think there would be teams that have interest in him. I think more teams would be interested in him closer to the deadline than they would right now. I don't know that anybody's screaming out there saying, got to get Ryan Lindgren right now. But I think he's movable later on. But anyway, so he's one of the guys. How about K'Andre Miller? Big disappointment this year. And I got to find, let's see if I can quickly find this. Yeah, Scott Cooper sends me a tweet and says, no promising career has stalled and plateaued like K'Andre Miller's. I think he would fetch a big return. After all, would you pay him $5 million a year from what you've seen? Major disappointment. So a lot of things are said there by Scott, and they go against each other. So if a lot of people are interested in him, yeah, somebody would give him that, a sizable contract. He's a free agent, a restricted free agent with arbitration rights next year. Yeah, somebody would pay him. Rangers may not. They may have seen a guy that he sure looks like he's plateaued. I don't see a guy going like this, with the trajectory going up like I do with, Alexis Lafreniere or Will Cooley. Like, he looks like a guy that, this is kind of where he is. He's played a lot of big games. He's 24. He's still only 24 years old. He's a big, strong kid, talented, but man, he should be better than he's been. He has not been good in his own end. He does not get the puck out of the end. You talk about the Rangers' struggles against Florida that have continued into this year, where they don't get the puck up and out of their own end of the ice. Boy, K'Andre Miller, big issues in doing that. But okay, so there's a guy like that would be a major move. And I agree with Scott that I do believe that you'd be able to get a return for K'Andre Miller. Young, still under, a controllable asset. He's not going to be a UFA or whatever. Still time to develop. Hasn't hit his prime yet. So, okay, you might be able to swing a deal there. But again, what are you getting back? Because now you're opening up, either a hole on the left side of your top defense pair or second defense pair. And I know K'Andre flips between the two. But he's a guy that kills penalties. He plays a big role on this team, 20 odd minutes a night. So you got to fill that. So, okay, are you just shuffling pieces to shuffle pieces then if you move him? And I'm not arguing against trading Miller, but I'm just saying, there has to be an end game. You can't just move guys off the roster. We're going to shake up the team. Nah, there's got to be an end game. So if you're going to move Miller, you got to be able to get something decent in return. And by decent, I mean, something younger, controllable, top 6 forward, top 4 defenseman, somebody that maybe you think fits better, maybe somebody that moves the puck better, more consistently than Miller. He's a guy to keep an eye on. If they make a big move, keep an eye on him, because I agree. I don't know what Chris Jury's thinking is about Keontre Miller. If he thinks that he's a big part of the core moving forward, or if he's a guy that can help get you a player or two in return that become part of that core moving forward. So those guys, Riley Smith, sure, somebody might have interest in him. I don't think, kind of like Lindgren, I don't think anybody's kicking down your door to get Riley Smith right now. But I think a contender looks at Riley Smith and says, good third line player. I know he's been playing up most of this season with the Rangers, and he hasn't been bad. I think you could do better, in your top 6 than Riley Smith. That's my opinion. But right now the Rangers don't have that guy. How about trading Capo Caco? We always hear trade rumors, got to throw Capo Caco into the mix. He certainly has played very well this year. That third line when Heedle's been healthy and Cooley's been on that line. I mean, it's the team's, most consistent line. You know what you're going to get from them. One of the best lines in the league. But is Caco, we talk about Miller plateauing. Is Caco, is this who he is? A really good third line player. And there's value to that. But the number 2 overall pick in the draft, you'd expect more. And I joked about him, not scoring on that great feed from Berard last night. But come on. He's not putting the puck in the net. So he is a really good third line player. But you see, they even put Brett Berard in a top 6 spot last night against the Blues. But Caco doesn't get that opportunity anymore. It's almost like the Rangers know that this is who he is. Now, I know that they put Caco in the middle last night. Not sure about that. Looks like Laviolette just trying to come up with something, right? Make something out of nothing by putting him at center. It's not his position. But okay, Heedle remains out. You're trying something. Johnny Brodzinski certainly hasn't been great since being inserted into the lineup. Okay. You put Caco in the middle, you can give it a shot. But they're not giving him that look, in the top 6. So to me, that tells me that's what they think about Capo Caco. Heedle, he's hurt again. I think there's limited interest, in trading for him. But I don't think the Rangers want to trade him because when he's been healthy this year, he's been really good. I really like Philip Heedle's game. And it obviously loved the third line, but you can also make arguments now that, boy, Will Cooley has shown that he should be moved up to the top 6. You talk about shaking things up. He's been pretty darn good, especially 5-on-5. All 9 of his goals are 5-on-5, leads the team this year. He's second on the team, tied for second behind Artemi Panarin in overall goals. In any case, so those are the guys, right? But you need an end game. You need an end game because you're going to create holes. It's not just getting rid of people. It's not like, we'll get rid of these guys and we're going to, bring these guys up from the minors because, boy, they're knocking on the door. Nobody's knocking on the door down below. You can argue Brennan Othman, but he's hurt. So you're not knocking yet. Gabe Perreault, is a sophomore at BC. The earliest the Rangers might get him is when his collegiate season is over if he turns pro at the end of the year, which I do believe is going to happen. There are no immediate answers in the prospect pipeline. So, okay, Chris Jury wants to make a trade. What's your end game? Looking for a D? Looking for a top 6 forward? I guess we'll find out in the coming stretch here. All right, so a lot of thoughts and I know we went in a lot of different directions here. Just trying to read here. Some people really upset with Peter Laviolette, and I'll give this a minute worth of conversation. Dr. Gonzo 66 says they've tuned out the coach at this point. Drury has to do something. Then UKE Rangers says, I thought more highly of Peter Laviolette, but his deep pairings and lack of accountability for Zibanejad is troubling. At some point, the youth may revolt at the vets in the locker room if they haven't done so already. Okay, I don't think there's any revolt. And in fact, I'd argue Rangers have good dressing room. I know Jacob Trouba, not beloved by the fans and everything. He is so liked and so respected in that dressing room. So's Chris Kreider. Yeah, the two names that we're talking most about in trade rumors are extremely respected. I sense no issues and have heard of no issues within the Ranger dressing room. Now, however, you talk about Peter Laviolette, accountability for Mika Zibanejad. Well, he's cut back on Zibanejad's ice time in some games. He took Chris Kreider off of his line for a little bit. You know, that's Zibanejad's comfort zone is with Kreider riding shotgun with him. Is that enough? But what are you going to do? You're going to bench him? Or you're going to scratch him? Okay. Who are you going to move into the top 6 to play center then, along with Trocheck? Okay. Give Filipino that chance? Do you keep Zibanejad with the same line mates, but give them more third line minutes and give more minutes to Hedl? That line, I'm not sure that works. I mean, they're not scratching Mika Zibanejad. It's not happening. I know fans want that. They want to scalp. They want a scapegoat. And they want Laviolette to deliver it to them. I just don't believe it's happening with Zibanejad. And listen, if I'm the coach, I'm not sure I'm doing that to one of my best players either. I might sit him on the bench for a stretch if I thought his head's not in it or the effort's not there. I'm not scratching Mika Zibanejad. And I'm not saying I'm a fan of how he's playing, right? I mean, I went into that before. I'm not going to repeat myself. So, okay, there's that. And you don't like how he's juggling the D pairings. Not sure what else he can do. Like, everybody's almost played with everybody. You know, Schneider's played right side. He's played left side. He's played second pair. He's played third pair. Miller, we talked about him. He's been top pair with Fox. He's been second pair with Trouba. Even a little bit, and certainly last year a little bit more, but a little bit with Schneider. Jones and Schneider. Mancini, has played with Schneider. I don't know what else you're going to do, to be honest. These are the 6 guys, and they certainly do not trust Chad Ruhwedel. My gosh, he's only played 1 game this season. Like, he is a placeholder, and this is probably where I'll finish up these points, and we'll get into our Thanksgiving, what to be thankful for. But my gosh, you're at the end of a road trip out west. Zach Jones gets hurt against Calgary. Rangers determine he's not going to play against Edmonton. Chad Ruhwedel, has been on the road trip. He's been with the team, all this time. He's your third pair defenseman, right? Third pair defenseman. He's your number 7 defenseman. That's what he's there for, an emergency. You're out west. Toss him into the lineup. Zach Jones can't play. Put Chad Ruhwedel in. No, the Rangers call up a rookie, fly him all the way out west to play a game just to fly all the way back home and get sent back to the minor leagues because Zach Jones is healthy on Monday. Like, come on. If you're Chad Ruhwedel, you got to be like, are you kidding me? Yeah. Anyway, little side note real quickly as we wrap up the podcasts, our Thanksgiving podcast. Thanks for taking part in today's show and for putting up with my rants on everything that's going on with the Rangers right now. Real quickly, what to be thankful for. You're a New York Rangers fan. Things aren't going great right now. Here are things to be thankful for. 1, the season is only a quarter of the way done. There is no team running away with the league this year. There's nobody running away with the Metropolitan Division, though Carolina surprised me, but listen, their goaltending issues may catch up to them. New Jersey's been a little bit inconsistent, but that's a good team. I could see them winning the division. I thought so at the beginning of the year before the season began. Washington's played really well, much better than I thought, but Ovechkin's out now. for a stretch with the broken leg. The Rangers, it's not like they're, buried in 7th place in the division. They're in 4th place. They're in a playoff spot, for what that's worth, a quarter of the way in. They're not getting blown out of the division. They still have games in hand, on teams in the division. Nobody's running away with the Eastern Conference. Nobody really frightens you in this league. Maybe the Panthers as defending champions playing well this year. But nobody frightens you. And there's still time to find your game. There's still time to make moves and shake up the mix, right? There's still time if you're the New York Rangers. There should be no panic. There should be a sense of urgency. There shouldn't be a sense of panic, even with how ugly some of the hockey's looked as of late. So those are a couple things to be, I think, thankful for. Man, you got to be thankful about the progression of Alexis Lafreniere and Will Cooley. I throw Braden Schneider in that mix too. I know it's been a rough go for the 6-7 defenseman this year, but I like Braden Schneider. I like his game. And so be thankful for, the progression of the younger players that now, Victor Mancini's part of that pipeline now. He's a guy that you can see being here for a while, being on that right side of the defense core. Be so thankful for Igor Shesterkin and Jonathan Quick, right? And be thankful for everything else that I mentioned at the top of the show. Your family, your friends, your good health. And certainly I wish all of that for you in this Thanksgiving season as we head into the holiday season thereafter. Thanks for tuning into the podcast today. It's Rink Rap presented by Forever Blueshirts. Make sure to check us out on the web, foreverblueshirts.com, and check me out on Twitter at Jim Cerny. Hit me up anytime. I want to be working the fans more and more into the podcast. So today was just the beginning of that for the rest of this season. So thank you for joining us and enjoy your holiday. Take a deep breath. Big game Wednesday night down in Raleigh against the Hurricanes. Enjoy it. Hope that, gotta hope. Yeah. Rangers bring their best, because if not, that's a tough out. The Carolina Hurricanes at home on Wednesday night. But that's also a chance for the Rangers to, simplify things and just get down and dirty, because that's the way you beat the Carolina Hurricanes. Let's see what we see on Wednesday night. And we'll regroup next week. We'll have a special guest. We'll certainly get to your messages as well. And again, happy Thanksgiving. Enjoy your holiday, and cheers, everybody. This is the Rink Rap Podcast. I'm Jim Cerny. We're brought to you by Forever Blueshirts.